until you wake up, the personality is the until you wake up, the personality is the membrane that you're living your life in. The personality, it's like a membrane that you're living your life in. And when I talk to people who are in that membrane, experiencing being that personality, complaining the way personalities do, having conflict with other people the way personalities do, being in bad moods the way personalities do, being afraid of death the way personalities are, being afraid of life the way personalities are, When I'm interacting with people like that, and I work with a lot of people, whether it's in my private practice or students, sometimes I'm concerned because I feel that it's very important for me to point out to the person when they're in the personality, that this is what you need to be able to do for yourself, is to see when you're in the personality. And when I'm talking to somebody and they're being the personality, but I can see that they don't see it, and I point it out to them, I get concerned sometimes because the personality will have negative reactions to being pointed out. The personality will have negative reactions to being revealed, and it can get dicey. So one of the things that I think is very important, and I'm saying this to you, but it's something that I think is important with everybody that I work with, is if I interact with you and I point out that you're being the personality, or I point out that you are being reactive, or I point out that you are coming from your conditioning, I might say it that way, right? I'm saying that with full compassion. In other words, I'm not saying that like you're doing that. You know what I mean? The personality will interpret that like, oh, you're accusing me of being something. And so this is a very touchy area for people. That you have to be careful with. So I want to be clear with you that when in this class, sometimes I'll point to that going on in the room, point to a question that was asked, or point to something that somebody says in the class. And I want you to be clear that when I do that, I am not saying there's anything wrong with you. I'm not saying that you are bad and wrong, or that you are failing. I'm simply asking you to see what I'm pointing at. That's all I'm doing, is asking you to see what I'm pointing at. And if you find you have a negative reaction to that, right, then see if you can notice that that's the personality. Of course the personality is going to have a negative reaction to that, right? Because the personality is an egotistical, neurotic case. And the personality lives its life trying to look good and be right and avoid being wrong and avoid being uncomfortable, right? So anytime somebody points anything out to you, that the personality interprets to be a negative, a put down, or a negative, or something's wrong with me, right? Then the personality starts generating reactions, becomes defensive, becomes evasive, there's all kinds of reaction. Intellectualize, avoid, get angry, become passive and just go along with everything to try and get through the experience. And this is a big challenge for people, I see it in psychotherapy all the time, because in psychotherapy, the reality of it is, if somebody comes and they want help to work on problems that they're having in their life, right? One of the things that I know going into it, based on my own experience and based on the understanding that I have about reality, is that eventually we have to get to the truth, which is that you're the problem. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. That that people when they're in difficulties in relationships and when they're in difficulties in life, the common way of seeing it and the common way of relating to it and the common way of dealing with it is called projection. It's that. It's not me. It's that. It's not me. It's them. It's not me. It's the other person. Right? If you look in your life, you'll see it's there. You'll see it's there. Whenever you have conflict with another person, that's what's going on. They're the one that has the problem. I don't have the problem, right? So in psychotherapy, you have to gradually turn that around so that the person sees that's not the case. That's not the case. And it is possible for you to be able to clean up your relationships, be complete in your relationships, and be the source of functionality and workability in the relationships. You have the ability to do that. I don't care what the relationships look like. If they're really dysfunctional and unworkable, right, then what it might mean for you to be awake is to get the hell out of the relationship, right? But if it's not a matter of that, and if it's just a matter of, typical neurotic behaviors, and both people are, paying in each other's ass from time to time, or you're stuck with your parents, or you're stuck with your kids and they're being crazy and so forth and so on, right? Then the key to success is to use the situation, whether it's a circumstance in your life, whether it's a circumstance in the health of your physical body, whether it's a circumstance in your relationships, your finances, whatever it is, right? One of the things about this work that can really accelerate the process of being awake is for you to be willing to look at the circumstances from the point of view that you're the source. One of my teachers used to call this responsibility, but not the way that most people understand the word, right? Most people understand the word, if you're responsible for something, then you're to blame. If you're responsible for something, then you're at fault, right? That's the common understanding of the word responsibility. But that's not the real definition of the word. Responsibility is the ability to respond. Responsibility, the ability to respond. Right? So if you start to work with that and you understand that that's the case, then you realize, as my teacher said, when he redefined the word responsibility, right? The definition he gave to the word responsibility as a definition you could use and work with, right? It's a willingness to consider yourself cause in the matter. A willingness to consider yourself cause in the matter. Whether that's true or not is irrelevant, see? Because the willingness to consider yourself cause in the matter puts you in a position to see what it would look like from the source. Puts you in a position to see what it would look like from the source. So you have to be willing to exercise your ability to do that and start to be willing to look at the situations and circumstances you find yourself in and exercise your ability to look at it from the source. If I look at it from the source, I can see possibilities for speaking and acting that I can't see if I'm looking at it from the point of view that you're the problem. Do you see that? If I'm looking at it from the point of view that you're the problem, I'm not going to see the possibilities that I can take to act and to speak differently that might bring about workability in the situation. And one of the things the spiritual teachings tell us is that there is no situation, including your own death, that you can't be the source for. You can't be the source of. There is no situation. This is the power and the value of being awake. This is the power and the value of knowing the truth, knowing who you are, knowing how things work. And you don't have to be awake yet to employ this. In fact, you could employ this as part of the path to awakening by understanding the concepts that the traditions talk about, by understanding these things. Right? You don't have to be experiencing your true nature to understand what the concepts tell you about your true nature. And if you have that as a conviction, whether you're experiencing it or not, and if because you have it as a conviction, you start to live consistent with what it would be like to be that, do you follow me? If you have it as a conviction, so you start to get interested in, okay, I may not be experiencing my true nature. Actually, you are, but you don't know it. But until that happens, that's the wake up, right? Until that happens, can you understand conceptually what your true nature is and how that true nature would function in relationship to life and in relationship to other people, in relationship to circumstances? And through the process of looking at things that way, trying on those glasses, what would it look like from the source? Then you can see possibilities for acting and speaking that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. And then if you start to follow those possibilities for acting and speaking, you could call it fake it till you make it if you want, right? But if you just behave consistent with what you know to be true, even if you're not experiencing that truth, right? That will take you to the truth. That will take you to the truth. If you get good enough in acting like you're awake, you'll probably stumble into being awake. If you get good enough in acting like you're awake, you'll probably start experiencing that you're awake. Because why? Because you are. The only reason you're not experiencing being awake is because you have attributed your identity to something that's not real, the conditioning. And you've attributed your identity to that, and you see from those eyes, right? And the conditioning that is operating, that has you see from those eyes, has the world appear a certain way to you, has the world appear to be threatening, right? Has the world appear to be complicated and difficult. Has the world appeared to be very challenging, right? All of it, the circumstances, right? If you want to know what I mean, just take 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning before you do anything and just sit with the mood you're in when you open your eyes. That's the personality not liking reality, right? And if you understand this, then you'll sit in the morning for a few minutes before you get up from your bed and get that cleared out, get that mood out of your awareness. Get yourself clear. That's one of the reasons why meditation is good to do in the morning, because you can use it to get yourself clear. Meaning that, see, and this is one of the things that you start to get used to. You start to get used to paying attention in such a way where you can see when there's dirt on your windshield. You can see when there's an attitude that you have. You can see when you are in a mood. You can see when you're annoyed. You can see when you're restless. You can see it. You can start seeing it, right? And when you start seeing it, and if you understand the teachings and the practices, when you start seeing it, then that's the opportunity for you to practice. That's the opportunity for you to apply the teaching and the understanding that you have about it. What's that mean? It means simple as in the morning when you wake up, to sit on the edge of the bed and check in. You know, what is the condition that I am in when I wake up? You know, you'll find a lot of the time that it is dirt on the windshield. You'll find a lot of the time you wake up already with a burden. With a burden. You already wake up, we call it dread. You know, you wake up dreading, you know, you wake up in the morning, you look, oh, what do I have to do today? What do I have to deal with today? What don't I want to do today that I have to do today? So your life shows up like a job you're working at, right? So you want to start to practice in the morning, you taking the opportunity to check in and look and see, you know, what state am I in? What condition am I in? What is the condition my mind is in? This is what it means to be awake. What it means to be awake is you're paying attention to the condition your mind is in all the time. So that when there's dirt there, right, you clean it. When there's dirt there, you clean it. When there's there, what do I mean by that? The way you clean it is you let go of whatever it is that's there that you're involved with. You know, you let it go. When you sit in meditation and you're focusing on the breath and you're not following that stream of thought, you know, that could involve an attitude or involve some kind of mood or involve some type of upset. When you're sitting in meditation, you're practicing your ability to clean that mind, to keep that mind clean. You're practicing your ability to do that. You know, it's a very big discovery when you realize that you own the experience of your life. You own that experience. You're the only one having it, right? That's your life. You are experiencing your life moment to moment. You own that experience. The question is, are you going to take care of it? Are you going to relate to it like you value it, like it's precious? That's why they say in the teachings, you know, existence, consciousness, bliss. Are you going to value it? The only way you're going to value it is if you understand that the most precious aspect that you have of life, in fact, life itself, what your life is your existence, is it not? What your life is the fact that you exist. That's your life, right? But that's not the way people relate to life, right? What my life is what I have. What my life is the circumstances of my life, is what my life is, right? But if you wake up, you realize, no, that's not what your life is. Your life is the awareness of the fact that you exist. And the existence itself is all that's necessary for you to experience fulfillment. The fact that you understand and appreciate that the fact that you are here, the fact that you exist itself, is your life. That is your life. And as my Zen teacher said, when you were born and you took your first breath, you were fulfilled. That was it. You were fulfilled. right? Because when you were born and you took your first breath, your existence existed. Your life existed. It's not going to get any better than that. You know, it's not going to get any better than that. Unless you use your conditioning to experience your life, right? And then the whole thing is different. Now the whole thing is, well, I didn't ask to be born. You know, now the whole thing is, yeah, I get it, I'm here. Now what? You know, what can I get here? You know, what can I get here? How much can I get here? You know, how much can I take advantage of the opportunity that my life is? Well, if you don't understand what your life is, you can't take advantage of the opportunity that it is, because the opportunity that it is to experience that you exist. That's the opportunity that it is, to experience that you exist. And if you can be clear about that, and you're tuned into that, you're tuned into the idea that your life is always the experience you're having, that you exist, and that's the source of your fulfillment, right? If you're tuned into that and that's the way you're experiencing your life, can you see that the circumstances won't have much of an effect on you? That's one of the things that I love about my Zen teacher. Even when he was in dire straits physically, and we all will be sometime, right? Even when he was in dire straits physically, he cried tears of joy. He cried tears of joy because under those conditions, what he learned and what he practiced had him be able to experience the fact that his existence was still fulfilling no matter what the condition of his body was. His existence was still completely fulfilling. He was fulfilled, regardless of the circumstances that he found himself in. That's the treasure. That's the gold. That's what's possible. But it's not going to happen unless you can start out with understanding the conceptual teachings, do the meditation practice in union with the conceptual teachings with the intention of realizing what's possible. And what's possible is to experience what my friend Ange ended up experiencing. What's possible is the circumstances no longer have the ability to ruin your life, no matter what they are. You know, once, and you know this, you know, once you catch on to this, once you catch on to what this is, nobody has to motivate you, you know. If you really catch on to this and you know what this is all about, nobody has to motivate you. You have a natural interest in it. You have a natural motivation with it, right? That's what's possible. That's what's available. I mean, if you look in your life at where in your life are you not complete? Where in your life is there unworkability in relationship to your body, in relationship to your past, in relationship to the people you're closest to? Where in your life is unworkability and dysfunction? Do you have the audacity to really look at that? Do you have the audacity to really look at that and be honest about it with yourself? Because if you do have the audacity to really look at that and be honest about it with yourself, and you do understand these teachings and practices, then you've got some work to do. You've got to start to apply what you understand and what you're learning and what you're practicing to your actual life, with the understanding that your fulfillment has already occurred. You're not trying to be happy. You're not trying to be fulfilled. You understand that happiness and fulfillment is already available to you. So you're not playing that game anymore. Right? Now what you're doing is paying attention in such a way where you can stop identifying with the conditioning. Paying attention in such a way that when things stimulate upset, when things trigger you, when that comes up, right, that you're available to see it instead of be it. That's the shift. That's the shift. Instead of being the personality, you manage it like a child. You know, Douglas Harding used to refer to himself as little Douglas, right? Because when he woke up, he realized his personality was like a child. And so if you don't manage the child's going to cause problems, because that child is living in an adult body with adult resources, with the adult ability to cause trouble. So that's the way you would start to look at your personality, is it's like a child. And it's trying to get love, it's trying to get acceptance, it's trying to avoid threats and so forth. And so part of it really, I mean, when you look at it from a psychodynamic perspective, part of it is really to be able to relate to your personality with compassion. You know, to relate to your personality, not like you're trying to get rid of it, not like it's bad and wrong, right? It's innocent. It's innocent. Because what it is it's awareness that lost its way. Your personality is awareness that lost its way. So it's innocent, right? And what you want to do, once you start to realize what's true and what's real, what you want to do is gradually you want to usher your personality into reality. You want to gradually usher your personality into reality to get it to start to function consistent with what's true. Get it to start to function to be consistent with what works. And if you do that, even based on a conceptual understanding, right? If you do that, you will be behaving like you're awake, and so awakeness will at some point just dawn on you. Because it's already true. You're already awake, right? So if you're behaving as if you're awake, right, at some point, because you are awake and you're already awake, at some point you just realize, oh, that's what it's like. It doesn't have to be some earth-shattering experience, you know. That's one of the misunderstandings that a lot of people have, that, you know, that one of the things that the spiritual traditions didn't handle well or didn't pass on correctly to us now is the idea that you have to go and live in a monastery or a cave in order to escape from being a personality. The people who are the teachers, the current teachers, they understand that a lay spiritual person is the truest form of spirituality, not a monk, a lay spiritual person, because you didn't run away from life. You didn't have to go somewhere to get away from anything that could upset you. No, you could be in the middle of it and experience being awake. So you are in the middle of it, aren't you? Yeah. And the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is I want you to know that you don't have to believe that you're a second-class citizen because you're a lay person and you're not a monk. No. No, you have the ability to realize the full possibility of being awake and enlightened. The full possibility of being awake and enlightened is to be awake and enlightened in an ordinary human life, not in a cave somewhere. And that whole tradition will die out, I have no doubt about it. Monasteries and caves, that tradition will die out because human beings, humankind has matured beyond that now. We can see beyond that the truth is to practice these things and to understand these things in the middle of what John Kabat-Zinn called the full catastrophe. To learn these things and practice these things in the middle of the full catastrophe so that you can realize the fact that you're a transcendental being. You're a transformed being. You are a spirit. You are not subject to the laws that govern grosser forms of reality.